The Silent House. In a quiet, unassuming neighborhood stood an old house, the kind that seemed to be forgotten by time. The paint was peeling, the windows were clouded, and the garden was overgrown. It had been empty for years, or so everyone thought. One autumn evening, a young woman named Emily moved into the house. She had inherited it from a distant relative she never knew. Despite its state of disrepair, Emily found the house charming in a mysterious way and decided to make it her home. On her first night, Emily noticed something strange. The house was eerily quiet, too quiet. There were no sounds of creaking floorboards, no wind howling through the trees, not even the distant hum of traffic. The silence was absolute, almost oppressive. As the days passed, the silence grew more unsettling. Every time Emily tried to play music or turn on the television, the devices would shut off after a few seconds, leaving her in suffocating stillness. The phone lines were dead, and her cell phone never had a signal inside the house. One night, as Emily lay in bed, she heard it, a faint, barely audible whisper. It was impossible to tell where it was coming from, but it was there, hidden within the silence. At first, she thought it was her imagination, but the whispering grew more frequent. It was as if the house itself was trying to speak to her. Determined to find the source, Emily began to search the house. She went room by room, but found nothing out of the ordinary. Yet, the whispers continued, growing louder, more insistent. They seemed to be calling her, beckoning her to the basement. Emily had avoided the basement since she moved in. It was dark and damp, filled with cobwebs and the musty smell of decay. But now, she felt compelled to go down there, as if an unseen force was drawing her closer. With a flashlight in hand, Emily descended the creaking wooden stairs. The whispers grew louder with each step, until they were no longer whispers but voices, a chorus of voices, speaking in unison, demanding to be heard. The flashlight flickered as Emily reached the bottom of the stairs. She scanned the room, her heart pounding. There, in the far corner, she saw it, a small, dusty box, hidden beneath a pile of old, rotting blankets. The voices were now deafening, filling her mind with a cacophony of noise. Emily hesitated, but she couldn't resist the urge to open the box. With trembling hands, she lifted the lid. Inside was a collection of old photographs, letters, and a worn leather-bound diary. The voices suddenly stopped, and the silence returned, even more intense than before. Curious, Emily opened the diary. The first few pages were filled with the neat, elegant handwriting of a woman named Abigail, who had lived in the house over a century ago. As Emily read on, she learned that Abigail had been plagued by the same oppressive silence that now filled the house. Desperate for peace, she had turned to dark rituals, hoping to rid the house of its curse. But something had gone wrong. Instead of banishing the silence, Abigail had trapped the spirits of the house's previous inhabitants within its walls. They had been trying to communicate with Emily, warning her of the danger that still lurked within the house. Suddenly, the temperature dropped, and the room grew cold. Emily felt a presence behind her, but when she turned around, there was nothing there, only darkness. The whispers returned, louder and more frantic than before, but now they were filled with fear. Before Emily could react, the basement door slammed shut, trapping her inside. The flashlight went out, plunging the room into pitch blackness. Emily's heart raced as she fumbled for the diary, but it was too late. The whispers turned into screams, anguished, tortured screams that filled the room with unbearable noise. The walls seemed to close in on her, and Emily realized with growing horror that she was not alone. The spirits that Abigail had trapped were all around her, their eyes watching, their hands reaching out. The last thing Emily heard before the silence engulfed her completely was the sound of her own voice, joining the chorus of the damned. The next morning, the house was silent once more, and empty. This tale is a reminder of how the quietest places can often hide the most terrifying secrets.